Day 15, COVID-19, lockdown South Africa, 10th of April 2020. Now, last night we as a nation, we have been informed of a further 2 weeks of the lockdown. I woke up this morning with the desire to read some poetry. And, of course, my favorite, Khalil Gibran, but this is his book, Sand and Foam. Very inspiring book, just made me think a lot, and I'm going to share one of the extracts at the end of today's video. Now, considering the fact that we have an extension, so my next read was a 5-minute read, and I looked at an article. It's by Dr. Sandra Watsky. Dr. Watsky is a doctorate in psychology and behavioral psychology. And it's really, really interesting. She wrote this article yesterday, so it's a very current article. It's not something picked out from the archives. But before I go on to that, I'd like to understand why this curve needs flattening, because that seems to be a catchphrase all over: flatten the curve, flatten the curve. I looked at a graph and I looked at statistics. And from other countries, it's shown that a period of 21 days, once lockdown ended, the number of infections escalated. Another country had 3 shorter periods. It took them much longer to bring down the rate of infection. The one that worked the best was the straight 49-day lockdown, or quarantine as we call it. Now we're only heading for 35, so I think this is a very, very logical step. I'll tell you later on, and from a scientific point, why this is really the best way to go. So back to my 5-minute read, and this was on behavioral therapy skills. In a time of coronavirus, or any time where we have to be together, this really tests your tolerance, it tests the way you can be with people, and I can just understand how those of you who are unhappy being in quarantine are feeling at the moment. But it is the case of making the best of a bad situation that you cannot change. So let's look at the normal approach that we would deal with this, right? When we are faced with a major problem. This is a problem of mammoth proportions. So we'd figure out how to solve the problem. Now ask yourself, can we solve this? There's absolutely no way we can solve this. What we can do is follow instructions and practice social distancing. And of course the hygiene, washing your hands, all that kind of thing, wearing a mask, wearing gloves. These are all important things. Yes, that's your contribution towards solving the problem. Change how you feel. For this, we need skills of emotional regulation. I'm going to share some with you at the end. But changing how we feel involves being mindful. You know, we tend to ignore those around us and just focus on ourselves very selfishly. That's going to affect your relationships. Remember, we have life beyond COVID-19. And what you do during this period can either give you a better life after this emotionally, or create an emotional wreck. So it's purely up to you as far as changing how you feel. The third one, which is most applicable: tolerate and accept. Or the other alternate, which is really not practical, then stay miserable and make it worse. No one's stopping you from staying miserable, but consider that by you being miserable, what are you doing to the others in the home or in your environment, wherever you are? If you can tolerate and accept, that seems to be the key to deal with major crises like this. Now, social distancing is the only way to go. There were people complaining yesterday, and I got messages with regard to this about how much longer. Now, these are people who have homes They have food on their tables. They're not in isolation as in living alone. They're living in family setups. They're young. They can go and offer their services if necessary to help poverty-stricken areas and things like that, distribute food, call organizations that are open and see if they need assistance. There's a heap of things you can do. Get the permission to do these things and go out and help. But to complain when you're young, you're full of life, you have a family around you, you have a roof over your head, you have a hot meal waiting for you. And to you, it's actually a holiday that you don't want. To me, that borders on arrogance. It really, really borders on arrogance in a time when the world is suffering and when people are forced to stay at home. Consider our vendors. Now they have a license. But do you know that some of them barely made 15 to 20 rand a day from their fruit or vegetable vending or whatever they were doing so that they could go home and put food on their tables? This is the reality out there. Let us stop complaining. You know, there's a proverb, I cried because I had no shoes until I saw a man who had no feet. Please bear that in mind. It might help you to have a bit of a positive attitude towards what you have and to understand that social distancing is the only way to flatten the curve. Now, I'd like to quote from Dr. Maria Godoy. And Dr. Maria Godoy is a scientist. And in her words, she says, the idea is to increase social distancing in order to slow the spread of the virus so that you don't get a huge spike in the number of people getting sick all at once. Can you imagine what it's going to do to your resources, to your hospitals, to our health professionals, to our essential services, if there is an awful spike and the number of infections increases to such an extent that it cannot be contained? Whereas if it's gradual, it's spread. And we can use the resources we have to deal with this. More social distancing over a long period of time. It's a simple mathematical issue. You cannot condense it. Shorter social distancing, the infection is going to spike. That is inevitable. We need to accept that. I know that I'm coming across with a lot of scientific fact this morning, but unfortunately, when I'm having to deal with certain emotions and certain overdramatic responses to this, then it's forcing me to resort to facts and figures, to have to assist in encouraging people that social distancing is the only way. We're in this together. And if I can help in my way through these videos to flatten the curve, then at the end of it, post-COVID, I can sit back and say, I've done something to change mindsets. That's important to me. So the acronym I'd like you to use is MAN. And this is a very good acronym, especially if you are, in a position in your home where you're influencing behavior. Now, the M in MAN stands for being mindful. The A, if you are the influential person in your home, is appear to be confident. It reassures others. Others will draw from your confidence. Others will draw from how you feel. So how you appear is how others are going to draw from. Negotiate, the N. Negotiate ways that you can work around this. You are a team. As a nation, as the world, we are in this together. This helps you to adopt a middle path approach. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have emotions, but what I'm saying is create a balance between the drama queen reaction and the over-rational. And in this way, you'll find that you will go through this period. I would like to end with Gibran's words. And I think you know just how much I respect this man. And he says, how can I lose faith in the justice of life when the dreams of those who sleep upon feathers are not more beautiful than the dreams of those who sleep upon the earth? Our pillows are the same at this point in time. We all have a dream. We want COVID-19 to be a thing of the past. God bless you, and until we meet again, may God forever hold you in the palm of his hand.